There was no storm in the morning, but it was still raining. I got up early and worked on the farm. There were eggs from the chickens, and I put them in boxes. I helped to milk the cows and then took them out to the field. Later, I went back into the house for breakfast. "Did you sleep all right last night?" asked Mrs. Duncan. "Or did the storm wake you up?" "I slept all right," I said. I didn't want to tell her about the light in the locked room or about Mr. Ross. After breakfast, I went back upstairs. Mr. Ross was talking on the telephone in his office. My mother was working at her desk. I knew that Mrs. Duncan was in the kitchen and that Mr. Duncan was working in the garden. "Where's Mrs. Ross?" I thought. Then I looked out of the window and saw her with Tony Duncan. They were walking to the boat. "He's taking her out in the boat," I thought. "Perhaps she's going to Edinburgh." The boat moved away from the island, and I waited until it was out at sea. Then I opened the door of my room. There was nobody in the passage, and I ran along to the locked room. The key was still in the plant pot, and I took it out. My hand was shaking. Then I unlocked the door. I went into the room, and I was very surprised. The room was full of strange things. Coloured shirts and suits. 3 guitars. And there were posters and photographs on the wall. I looked at the posters. Jake Rosso's face looked down at me. I looked at the dead Jake Rosso's picture, and I remembered all the photographs on the walls of my room in Hong Kong. I could never forget that face, the face of my favourite singer. Then, while I looked at his face, something strange happened. I began to see another face in the posters. An older face, and with a moustache, but the same face. I saw the face of Mr. Ross. "No," I said, "it's not true." But it was. I knew it was. Mr. Ross is Jake Rosso. "No," said a voice behind me. I turned round and saw Mr. Ross. He was standing in the doorway. He looked afraid. "I don't believe you," I said. "You have to believe me." I looked at the posters. "Who is that, if it's not you?" "It's Jake Rosso. He was my brother." "That's not true," I shouted. "I don't believe you." "Listen, Jake Rosso was my favourite singer. I had hundreds of photos of him. I still have all his records. I loved him. Do you understand? Thousands of people loved him." "He's dead," Mr. Ross said quietly.